This isn't revenge. It's a warning.
The notification sound on my wife's phone could wake the dead, and at 2:47 a.m., it practically raised me from mine. Kendra didn't even flinch. She just rolled over, grabbed the device with the practice motion of someone who'd been expecting it, and started typing furiously under the covers. Work emergency? I mumbled into my pillow, though we both knew her marketing firm didn't exactly deal in life-or-death campaigns. She whispered, her fingers dancing across the screen like she was composing the next great American novel instead of whatever late-night conversation couldn't wait until morning. I'm Nick Dalton, and I fix computers for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me sharp enough to notice when something's off in the digital world. What I was slower to pick up on were the glitches in my own marriage. The texting continued for another 20 minutes. I know because I watched the clock, counting each passing minute like a man waiting for his execution. When Kendra finally put the phone down, she was smiling in the dark. I could see it in the reflection of our bedroom mirror, that satisfied little smirk she used to reserve for me. Everything okay at the office? I asked again. Just Tessa being dramatic about her dating life, Kendra said smoothly. You know how she gets. I did know Tessa. Kendra's best friend since college, a socialite who treated gossip like currency and had never sent a text after 10 p.m. in the 8 years I'd known her. But I didn't say that. Instead, I filed it away in the growing folder in my brain labeled Things That Don't Add Up. The next morning, Kendra was already gone when I woke up. Her coffee mug sat in the sink, lipstick stain on the rim, a shade I didn't recognize. Cherry red instead of her usual soft pink. Another file for the folder. I was debugging a server crash for a local law firm when my phone buzzed. Jules Martinez, my best friend since high school and the only ex-cop I knew who'd quit the force to install security systems because, in his words, I got tired of arriving after the crime. Coffee? His text read. Always, I replied. We met at Murphy's Diner, the kind of place that served coffee strong enough to strip paint and didn't judge you for ordering breakfast at 2 p.m. Jules was already there, looking like he'd been awake for days, which, knowing him, he probably had been. You look like heck, he said by way of greeting. Kendra's been acting weird, I said, sliding into the booth across from him. Secretive. Different. Jules raised an eyebrow. Different how? Late-night texts, new clothes. Yesterday I found a receipt for Morton's Steakhouse in her purse. We haven't been to Morton's since our anniversary 2 years ago. Maybe she's planning a surprise? For who? The question came out more bitter than I intended. Jules studied my face with those sharp eyes that had made him a good cop. You want me to look into it? No, I said quickly. Then after a pause, maybe, I don't know. Nick, if you think she's cheating, I don't think anything yet. That's the problem. But I was lying, and we both knew it. The signs were there, had been there for weeks. The new gym membership she'd never used in front of me. The sudden interest in working late, the way she'd started closing her laptop whenever I walked into the room. That evening, I decided to test a theory. I came home early and suggested we order Chinese food and watch a movie, something we used to do every Friday night before life got complicated. I can't tonight, Kendra said, not looking up from her phone. Girls' night with Tessa and the crew. Again? Didn't you just go out Wednesday? That was different. This is Tessa's birthday celebration. Tessa's birthday was in March. It was October. Have fun, I said, and meant it in the way you mean break a leg to an actor. She left at 7, dressed in a black dress I'd never seen before, wearing perfume that smelled like promises she wasn't making to me. I watched from the window as she got into her car, then immediately called Jules. Operation Catch a Cheater is a go, I said. Jesus, Nick, you sure about this? I'm sure I need to know. An hour later, Jules and I were parked outside Hendrick's bar, watching my wife laugh at jokes told by a guy who definitely wasn't Tessa. He was younger than me. Wife's phone could wake the dead, and at 2:47 a.m., it practically raised me
laugh
from
too hard
mine.
at his jokes.
Kendra didn't even
Watched
flinch.
her put her hand
She just
on his
rolled
arm in
over,
a way that
grabbed the
was
device with
definitely
the
not
practice motion of
professional
someone who'd been
networking.
expecting it. I've seen
And started
enough.
typing
I said
furiously
finally.
under the covers.
What's the plan?
Work emergency?
I stared at my
I
wife
mumbled
through the
into
bar
my
window,
pillow.
feeling
So we
something
both knew
cold
her
and
marketing
sharp
firm didn't
crystallizing
exactly
in my deal in
chest.
life or death campaigns.
I'm going to destroy them both.
The next
She
few days,
whispered,
I played the
her
perfect
fingers
husband.
dancing across
Made
the
coffee in the
screen like
morning,
she was
asked
composing
about
her
her
next
next
great American
pretended not to
novel
notice when she
instead of
showered
whatever
immediately
late-night
after coming home
conversation
from her
couldn't wait
overtime
until
shifts.
morning.
All
I'm
while
Nick
Jules and I
Dalton,
planned
and
our
I fix
reconnaissance
computers
mission
for a
like
living.
we were preparing
Not
for war.
glamorous, but it
And
pays
maybe
the
we
bills
were.
and keeps me
Jules
sharp
had
enough to
connections from
notice
his
when
cop
something's
days, and
off in the
I had
digital
skills that
world.
went beyond fixing
What I was
crashed hard
slower to
drives.
pick up on
Together,
were the glitches
we made a
in my own
dangerous team.
marriage.
Him with his
The
street
text
smarts and
continued for another
investigative
20
training.
minutes.
Me,
I
with
know
my
because I
ability to
watched
make
the
technology do things
counting
it wasn't
each
supposed to
passing
do.
minute like a man
His
waiting
name's
for his
Tyler Reed,
execution.
Jules reported
When
over
Kendra
coffee
finally
Thursday
put
morning.
the phone down,
29.
she was
Lives
smiling
in those
the
new
dark.
condos downtown.
I could see it in the
Drives a
reflection of our
2023
bedroom
Audi
mirror.
A4 lease.
That satisfied little smirk
Has
she
a
used to
roommate
reserve
named
for me.
Greg who sells insurance.
Everything
and
okay at
smokes
the
enough
office?
weed to
I
supply
asked
a small
again.
music festival?
Just Tessa being dramatic
How long has
about
this
her
been
dating
going on?
life.
Kendra said
Best I can
smoothly.
tell,
You know
about
how
6
she
weeks.
gets. Started
did
right
know
around
Tessa.
the time
Kendra's
got that
best friend
promotion.
since college. A socialite who treated gossip like currency
She'd been
and had
so
never sent a
excited,
text after
had
10
insisted
p.m.
we
in the 8
celebrate
years
at
I'd
that
known her.
expensive restaurant
But I didn't say
downtown.
that.
Instead,
The same restaurant
I filed
where,
it away
apparently,
in the growing
she'd
folder
been
in my
celebrating
brain
other
labeled
things with Tyler.
things that don't
I
add
want to
up.
meet him, I said.
Nick,
The next morning,
not to hurt him, just
Kendra
to
was
see what
already
I'm
gone
dealing
when
with.
I woke up.
Jules looked
Her coffee
skeptical,
mug
but he
sat
knew
in the
better than
sink.
to argue when I got
Lipstick
that
stain
tone.
on the rim.
He works out at
shade
Fitness
I didn't
Plus on Grant
recognize.
Street.
Cherry
Usually
red
they're
instead of
around
her
6
usual soft
p.m.
pink.
Another file
That
for the
evening, I
folder.
found myself doing something
I was
hadn't done
debugging a
in
server
months.
crash for a local
Going
law
to the
firm
gym.
and my phone buzzed.
I'd let my
Jules
membership lapse when
Martinez,
work got busy.
my best friend
They were
since
happy
high
to
school
let
and
me
the
pay
only
for a
ex-cop
day
I knew
pass.
who'd quit the force
Amazing
to
how
install
easy it
security
is to
systems
slip back into
because,
old
in his
routines when
words,
you're motivated
I
by
got
the right
tired of arriving
kind of
after the
anger.
crime.
Tyler was exactly
Coffee?
what I'd
His
expected.
text read.
The kind of guy who grunted
Always,
loudly during
I
his
replied.
workouts and
We
took
met at
selfies
Murphy's
between
Diner.
sets.
The kind
He
of
had one of
place
those
that served
motivational
coffee
quote
strong enough to
tattoos
strip
on his
paint
forearm
and didn't judge you for
Success
ordering
is
breakfast
the best
at 2
revenge.
p.m. The irony
Jules
wasn't
was already
lost on
there,
me.
looking
I
like
positioned
he'd been
myself
awake
at the
for
bench
days,
press next to
which
his,
knowing him
and waited
he
for my
probably had
opportunity.
been.
It came when he
looked
was
like
struggling
heck,
with
he
a
said
weight
by
that
way
was
of
clearly
greeting.
too heavy for him.
Kendra's
His form
been
getting
acting
sloppy
weird,
as he
I
tried
said,
to impress the
sliding into the
college
booth
girls
across
doing
from him.
cardio nearby.
Secretive.
Need a spot?
Different, I asked.
Jules raised an
Yeah.
eyebrow.
Thanks, man.
Different how?
I helped him through his
Late
set,
night texts,
playing the
new
friendly gym
clothes.
buddy while studying
Yesterday
his
I found
face
a
up
receipt
close.
from Morton's
He had
Steakhouse
the
in her
kind of
purse.
easy
We haven't been to
confidence that came
Morton's
from
since
never
our
having to
anniversary
work
2
too
years
hard
ago.
for anything.
The kind of guy
Maybe
who
she's
probably
planning
never
a
had his heart
surprise?
broken because he was
For
usually
who?
the one doing the breaking.
The question came out more bitter than I
I'm Tyler,
intended.
he
Jules
said,
studying
sitting
up
up
and
and extending
extending
his
his
hand.
sharp eyes that had made
Nick,
him a good cop.
I replied, shaking it
You
and
want me to
noting
look
the
into it?
expensive watch on his
No,
wrist.
I said
You work
quickly.
around here?
Then after a
Marketing firm
pause,
downtown, Kendra Associates.
Maybe, I don't know.
You know it?
Nick,
Oh,
if you think
I
she's
knew it.
cheating,
Heard
I
of
don't
it.
think
Good
anything
company?
yet. That's the problem.
Best job I've ever had, he said with
But
a
I was
grin that
lying,
made me want to
and we both
rearrange
knew
his
it.
perfectly straight
The
teeth.
signs were there.
Great
Had been there for
benefits, if you know
weeks.
what I mean. The new gym
I knew
membership
exactly
she'd
what he
never
meant.
used in front of me.
We made small talk
The sudden
for
interest
another
in
10
working
minutes.
late.
He
The
was
way she
everything
started
I'd
closing
feared.
her laptop
Charming,
whenever I walked
confident,
into the room.
and completely oblivious
That
to
evening,
the
I
fact
decided
that he
to
was
test the
flirting
theory.
with disaster.
I came home
When
early
he
and
mentioned
suggested
grabbing
we
drinks
order
later
Chinese food
with this
and watch a
amazing
movie.
woman from work,
Something we used to
I had
do
to
every
excuse
Friday night
myself
before
before I
life
did
got
something that would
complicated.
land me in jail.
I can't tonight. I
Kendra
called
said,
Jules from
not
the
looking
parking
up from her
lot.
phone.
How'd it go?
Girls' night with
He
Tessa
asked.
and the crew.
He's exactly
Again?
the kind of a
Didn't
hole
you
you'd
just go out
expect.
Wednesday?
And Jules, he
That
has
was
no
different.
idea
This is
who I
Tessa's
am.
birthday celebration.
That's good, right?
Tessa's birthday
us
was
an
in
advantage.
March. It was October.
That's what I'm
Have
counting
fun,
on.
I said.
That
and meant
night,
it in the
Kendra
way you
came
mean
home at
break a leg
11:30
to an actor.
claiming she'd been at a client
She left
dinner.
at 7.
She smelled
dressed
like
in a black
expensive
dress I'd never
cologne and
seen
lies.
before.
When
When
she
she
kissed
kissed
me
me
goodnight,
goodnight,
I
I
tasted
tasted
betrayal
betrayal
she
on
wasn't
her
making to
lips.
me. I watched from the
How was
window
your
as she
day?
got into her
She
car
asked,
and immediately
settling
called
into
Jules.
bed beside me.
Operation Catch a Cheater
Productive,
is a go.
I said.
Very
Jesus,
productive.
Nick, you sure about this?
The next morning,
sure
I started
I
my
need
real
to know.
work. While Kendra was at her
An hour
early
later,
meeting, I was
Jules
in
and
our
I were
home
parked
office,
outside
using
Hendrick's
skills
bar,
I'd developed
watching
over
my wife
15
laugh
years
at
in
jokes
IT to
told
dig
by
into
a
the
guy who
digital
definitely
footprints of
wasn't
my wife's
Tessa.
affair.
He was younger
Her
than
laptop
me.
was
Wife's
password
phone
protected,
could wake the
but I'd
dead,
set up the
and
home
at
network.
2:47 a.m., it
Getting in was
practically
child's
raised
play.
me from mine.
What I found
Kendra
there
didn't
chilled me
even
to the
flinch.
core. She
Not
just
because it
rolled
was
over,
explicit,
grabbed the
but because
device
it
with the
intimate.
practice motion of someone
Messages
who'd
that
been
went back
expecting
weeks,
it and
filled with
started typing
inside jokes
furiously
and
under
shared
the covers.
secrets.
Work
Plans for
emergency?
weekend
I
getaways and
mumbled into
discussions
my
about
pillow.
when the
Though
time
we
is
both
right.
knew her marketing firm
They weren't
didn't
just having
exactly
an
deal
affair.
in life or death
They were planning a
campaigns.
future.
Mm,
The worst part
mm.
was reading Kendra's
She whispered,
messages, seeing
her
a side of
fingers
her
dancing
personality
across
I
the
hadn't
screen
seen
like
in
she was
years.
composing the next
She was
great
playful,
American novel
flirtatious,
instead
alive
of whatever
in a way
late
she
night
hadn't been with me in
conversation
months.
couldn't wait until
It was like
morning.
watching a stranger wear my
I'm Nick
wife's
Dalton,
face,
and I
I
fix
screenshotted
computers for a
everything,
living.
stored it
Not
in an
glamorous,
encrypted
but it
folder, and
pays
began
the bills
planning my
and keeps me
response.
sharp enough to
If
notice
they
when
wanted to
something's
play
off in the
games,
digital
I'd show
world.
them what a real player
What I
looked
was
like.
slower to pick up
Jules
on
came
were
over
the
that
glitches
afternoon,
in my
finding
own
me in the
marriage.
office, surrounded
The
by
texting
printouts and
continued for
notes.
another 20
Jesus,
minutes.
Nick. I know because
You look like
I
you're
watched
planning
the
to
clock,
invade a small
counting
country.
each passing minute
Something
like a man
that,
waiting
I
for
said,
his execution.
not looking up from my work.
When Kendra finally
I need
put
you to
the
do
phone
something
down,
for me.
she was
Name
smiling
it.
in the dark.
I need you
I
to
could
find
see
out
it in the
everything you can
reflection of
about
our
Tyler
bedroom
Reed,
mirror,
where he
that
goes, who
satisfied
he
little
talks
smirk
to,
she used to
what his
reserve for
weaknesses
me.
are.
I want to know him better
Everything
than his
okay
own
at the
mother
office?
does.
I asked
And
again.
then what? Just
I finally
Tessa
looked
being
up and
dramatic
Jules
about her
took a
dating
step
life.
back at whatever he
Kendra
saw
said
in my
smoothly.
eyes. You know
Then
how
we're
she
going to
gets.
teach him that some
I
games
did
have
know Tessa.
consequences.
Kendra's
By the
best
following
friend since
Monday,
college.
Jules
A
and I had
socialite who
compiled
treated
a dossier
gossiply
on
currency
Tyler
and had
Reed
never sent
that
a
would have
text after
impressed
10
the
p.m.
FBI.
in the 8 years
The
I'd
kid
known
was
her.
an open book.
But I didn't say
Social
that.
media accounts
Instead,
with minimal
I
privacy
filed it away
settings,
in the
a
growing
predictable
folder in my
routine,
brain labeled
and the kind of
things that
arrogant
don't add up.
confidence that made him sloppy about covering
The next
his
morning,
tracks. He
Kendra
lived
was
in
already
Unit
gone when I woke
412
up.
at the Meridian
Her
condos,
coffee mug sat
drove
in the
his
sink.
leased Audi like
Lipstick
it was a
stain on the
Ferrari,
rim,
and had a
shade
weakness
I
for
didn't
expensive
recognize.
scotch and cheap
Cherry
thrills.
red instead of her
His roommate
usual
Greg
soft
was
pink.
exactly as
Another
advertised.
file for the folder.
An insurance salesman who
I was
spent more on
debugging a server
marijuana than
crash
most
for a
people
local
spent
law
on
firm when my
groceries.
phone buzzed.
But most
Jules
importantly,
Martinez,
Tyler
my
had
best
no
friend since
idea
high
what he was
school
dealing
and the only
with.
ex-cop I knew
His building
who
has
quit the
smart
force
locks,
to install
I told
security
Jules as we
systems
sat in my
because,
office
in his
reviewing our
words,
intelligence.
I got tired
Connected
of
to the
arriving
same
after
network
the
as the
crime.
building's other systems.
Coffee,
Security
his
cameras,
text read.
elevator controls,
Always,
even
I
the
replied.
fire alarm
We
system.
met at Murphy's Diner.
Please tell me you're
the
not
kind of
thinking
place
what
that
I think
served
you're
coffee
thinking.
strong enough to strip
I'm not
paint
going to hurt anyone.
and didn't judge
I
you
said.
for ordering
But if
breakfast
someone
at
were
2
to
p.m.,
accidentally trigger the
Jules
fire
was
alarm in
already
his
there,
building at,
looking like he'd
say,
been awake for
3
days,
a.m.
which
every
knowing
night
him,
for a week,
he probably
that
had
wouldn't
been.
be my fault,
You
would
look
it?
like heck, he said by way of
Jules
greeting.
shook his head. Kendra's
You're
been acting
playing
weird,
with fire,
I said,
Nick.
sliding into the booth across
No,
from
I'm
him.
playing with Tyler.
Secretive.
Fire would be too
Different.
easy.
Jules
That night,
raised an
I put the
eyebrow.
first phase of my plan
Different
into
how?
motion. While Kendra
Late
was at
night
another
texts,
client
new
dinner,
clothes.
I'd stopped
Yesterday I
pretending
found a
to believe
receipt
her
from Morton's
lies.
Steakhouse in
I
her
was in our
purse.
basement.
We haven't
setting
been to
up
Morton's
equipment that
since
would
our
make
anniversary
the next
2
few
years
weeks
ago.
very interesting for Mr. Tyler
Maybe
Reed.
she's planning a
The
surprise.
beauty of smart home technology
For who?
is that it's only
The
as
question
secure
came out
as
more
its
bitter
weakest
than I
link.
intended.
And Tyler,
Jules
like most
studied my
people his
face
age,
with those
had
sharp
connected
eyes that had made him
everything
a
in
good
his
cop.
condo to his network without
You want me to
bothering
look into it?
change the default
No,
passwords.
I said quickly.
At exactly
Then
3:17
after a
a.m.,
pause,
every smart device
maybe,
in Tyler's
I don't know.
apartment came alive at once.
Nick, if you think
His
she's
sound
cheating,
system
I don't
blasted
think
death
anything
metal
yet.
at maximum
That's the
volume.
problem.
His smart light strobed like a
But I was
disco.
lying,
His
and we
coffee
both
maker
knew
started
it.
brewing. The
His
signs
robotic
were there.
vacuum began
Had
its
been there
cleaning
for
cycle,
weeks.
bumping into
The
furniture
new
and
gym
walls,
membership she'd never
and his
used
car
in front
alarm
of me connected to his
A
phone's
sudden
app
interest in
began
working late.
wailing in the
way
parking
she'd started
garage
closing her
4 floors
laptop
below.
whenever I walked
I
into the
imagined him
room.
stumbling around in his
That evening, I
underwear,
decided to
trying to
test a
figure out
theory.
why his entire
I came home
life had
early
suddenly
and
become a
suggested we order
technological
Chinese
nightmare.
food and watch a
The
movie.
thought made me
Something
smile
we
for
used
the
to
first
do
time
every
in
Friday
weeks.
night before
The
life
next
got
day, I made a
complicated.
point of being extra
can't tonight,
attentive to
Kendra
Kendra.
said,
Brought
not
her
looking up
coffee
from
in
her
bed,
phone.
asked about her
Girls'
work,
night with
played the
Tessa and
role
the
of the
crew.
loving husband
Again?
while she
Didn't you
lied
just
through
go
her
out
teeth
Wednesday?
about her evening plans.
That was different.
You
This is
seem
Tessa's
happy
birthday
today,
celebration.
she said, studying my
Tessa's
face
birthday
with
was
the
in March.
suspicious
It was
look of someone
October.
with a guilty
Have fun,
conscience.
I said, and meant
Why
it in the
wouldn't
way
I
you
be?
mean break a
I have a
leg
beautiful
to an actor.
wife, a good job.
She left at 7,
and all the time in
dressed
the
in a
world
black
to focus
dress
on
I'd
the
never
things
seen
that
before.
mattered to me, wearing perfume that smelled
didn't
like
like the way I
promises
said
she
that
wasn't
last
making
part.
to me. I
Good.
watched from the window
That
as she
evening,
got into her
while
car
she was at
and
her
immediately
book
called
club,
Jules. A book
Operation
club
Catch
that
a Cheater is a
apparently met
go,
at Tyler's
I said.
favorite bar.
Jesus, Nick,
I
you
escalated
sure
my
about this?
campaign. I'm sure
This time
it
I
wasn't
need to
just
know.
his smart home systems.
An hour
I
later,
found his social media
Jules and I were
accounts, his
parked outside
email,
Hendrick's
even his
bar,
Netflix
watching my
password.
wife laugh at
By the
jokes
time I was
told
done,
by a guy
Tyler
who
Reed was going
definitely
to think he
wasn't
was losing
Tessa.
his mind.
He was younger than
his
me.
Instagram
Wife's
account
phone
started
could wake the
posting
dead,
embarrassing
and at
throwback
2:47
photos from his
a.m.,
college
it practically
days.
raised me
Pictures
from
of him
mine.
passed out at
Kendra
parties,
didn't even
wearing
flinch.
ridiculous
She just
outfits,
rolled over,
caught in
grabbed the
compromising
device with the
positions
practice
with
motion
people
of
who
someone who'd been
definitely
expecting
weren't
it,
Kendra.
and started
His dating
typing
app profiles
furiously under the
updated
covers.
themselves with honest
Work
descriptions of his
emergency?
personality flaws.
I mumbled into my
His
pillow.
streaming
Though we
services
both
began
knew her
recommending
marketing
shows
firm
about
didn't exactly
infidelity
deal
and
in life
betrayal.
or death
But the
campaigns.
masterpiece was his work email. Nothing obvious.
She whispered.
Nothing that would
Her
get him
fingers
fired
dancing across
immediately.
the screen like
Just
she was
small things.
composing the next
Replies
great
sent to the
American
wrong people.
novel.
Instead
Meeting
of whatever
invitations for
late night
appointments that
conversation
didn't exist.
couldn't wait until morning.
Autocorrect failures that made
I'm
him
Nick
sound
Dalton,
unprofessional.
and I fix
Jules
computers
called me
for
the
a
next
living.
morning,
Not
laughing so
glamorous,
hard
but
he
it
could
pays
barely
the
speak.
bills and keeps me
Whatever
sharp
you
enough
did
to
to this
notice
guy,
when
it's
something's
working.
off in the digital
My buddy
world.
at the police department
What I
says
was
they that
slower
got
to
3
pick up
noise
on were the
complaints about
glitches
his
in my
building
own
last
marriage.
And get
The
this,
texting
someone
continued
called
for
in a
another
wellness
20
check
minutes.
because his
I
neighbors thought
know
he was
because
having
I
a
watched the
breakdown.
clock.
I
Counting
have no idea
each
what you're
passing
talking
minute
about,
like a
I
man
said
waiting for his
innocently.
execution.
Sure you don't. Just
When Kendra
be
finally
careful,
put
okay?
the phone down,
This kind of thing
she
can
was
escalate
smiling
quickly.
in the dark.
He was right.
I could see it in the
but I was
reflection of our
past the point
bedroom
of
mirror.
caring about escalation.
That satisfied little
Every
smirk
night,
she
Kendra
used to
came
reserve
home
for me.
later and later, her excuses
Everything
getting
okay
more
at the
elaborate
office?
and less
I
believable.
asked again. Every morning,
Just
she
Tessa
looked at
being
me like
dramatic
I was
about
a
her
stranger
dating life,
she was trying to
Kendra
figure
said
out.
smoothly. You know
The
how
old
she
Nick
gets.
would have confronted her.
I did know
Would have
Tessa.
demanded the truth
Kendra's best
and
friend
tried
since
to work
college.
things out.
A socialite
But the
who
old
treated
Nick was
gossip like
dead,
currency and
ended
had
by
never
late
sent a
night
text
text after
messages
10
and
p.m. in the
lipstick
8 years
stains
I'd
on
known her.
coffee cups.
But I didn't
The
say
new
that.
Nick was just getting
Instead,
started. I filed it away in the growing
that
folder
Friday,
in my
I decided
brain
it was
labeled
time to take
things
things to
that
the
don't
next
add up.
level. While Kendra was getting
The next
ready
morning,
for another
Kendra
girls'
was already
night,
gone when
I was
woke
preparing
up.
for the most
Her coffee
important
mug sat
performance
in the
of my
sink.
life.
Lipstick
Have
stain
fun
on the
tonight,
rim,
I
a
said,
shade I
kissing
didn't
her
recognize.
cheek as she headed for
Cherry
the door.
red instead of her
I
usual
will,
soft
she said.
pink. And for the
Another
first
file
time
for
in
the
weeks,
folder.
she wasn't lying.
I was debugging a
Neither
server
was I.
crash for a local law
But
firm
my
when my
idea
phone
of
buzzed.
fun and hers
Jules
were about to
Martinez,
become very
my
different
best friend
things.
since high school,
Saturday
and the
morning
only
came
ex-cop
with
I
the kind
knew
of autumn
who quit
chill
the
that
force
made you
to
wanna
install
stay in bed.
security systems.
But I was up
because,
before
in his
dawn,
words,
finalizing
I got
the
tired
details
of
of what
arriving
Jules
after
had
the
started
crime.
calling Operation Homewrecker.
Coffee. His text
The
read.
name was Juvenile.
Always,
but it fit.
I replied.
Kendra was
We
still
met
asleep,
at Murphy's Diner,
probably exhausted
the kind
from
of
her
place
girls'
that
night
served
that had
coffee
lasted
strong
until
enough to
2
strip
a.m.
paint, and didn't
I'd heard her
judge you
stumble
for
in,
ordering
trying to be
breakfast
quiet
at 2 p.m.
But after 15 years
Jules
of
was
marriage,
already
you know the
there,
sound of your spouse's
looking like he'd been
footsteps.
awake for
You
days,
also know
which knowing
when
him,
they're trying too
he probably
hard
had
to
been.
seem normal.
You look like heck.
I
he
made
said
coffee
by way of
and
greeting.
sat in the kitchen, scrolling
Kendra's
through
been
the
acting
evidence
weird,
I'd collected.
I said, sliding
Photos
into
of
the
her
booth
and
across
Tyler
from
at
him.
restaurants across town.
Secretive.
Screenshots
Different.
of their text
Jules
conversations.
raised an eyebrow.
Credit card statements
Different
showing
how?
purchases at lingerie
Late
stores
night
I'd never seen her
new
shop
clothes.
at. Yesterday I
The
found
funny
a
thing
receipt
about
from
betrayal
Morton's
is how
Steakhouse in her
obvious
purse.
it becomes
We haven't
once
been
you
to
start
Morton's
looking.
since our
All
anniversary
those
2
little
years ago.
inconsistencies that you explain
Maybe
away
she's
when you
planning a
trust someone
surprise?
suddenly form a
For who?
perfect damning picture.
The question
when
came
you
out
don't.
more bitter
My
than I
phone buzzed.
intended.
Jules studied my face with
It's
those sharp
showtime.
eyes that had
His
made him a
text
good
read.
cop. Target acquired.
You want me to look into it?
I looked out
No,
the kitchen window
I said
and saw
quickly.
Tyler's Audi parked
Then
across
after a
the
pause,
street. Bold move,
maybe,
parking
I don't
right
know.
in front of the house.
Nick, if you
Either
think
he was
she's cheating,
stupider than
I don't think
thought, or
anything
he'd
yet.
reached the point
That's
of not
the
caring
problem.
who saw him.
I was betting
But
I
I
was
was
lying,
stupid.
and we both knew it.
Kendra came downstairs
signs
20
were
minutes
there.
later,
Had
already
been there
dressed
for
and
weeks.
checking her phone.
The new
She
gym
barely
membership
looked at me
she'd
as
never
she grabbed
used
her
in front
purse.
of me.
Going
The sudden
somewhere?
interest in working
I asked
late.
casually.
The way she'd started
Coffee with
closing her
Tessa.
laptop
We're
whenever
planning
I
her
walked
sister's
into the
baby
room.
shower. That
Tessa's
evening, I
sister
decided to
had her
test a
baby
theory.
shower 3 months
I came
ago.
home early
I
and
was there.
suggested we order
Have
Chinese
fun, I
food
said,
and watch a movie.
and watched her leave
Something
through
we
the
used
front
to do
window.
every Friday night.
She
before
walked
life
straight to
got
Tyler's car.
complicated. I waited
I can't
exactly
tonight,
5
Kendra
minutes,
said,
then
not
called
looking
Jules.
up from her phone.
They're moving.
Girls' night
I said,
with
Roger
Tessa
that.
and the crew.
Phase 2 is go.
Again?
Didn't you just
Phase
go out
2
Wednesday?
had taken weeks to set up.
That
and
was
it
different. This is
beautiful in
Tessa's
its
birthday
simplicity.
celebration.
While I'd been playing with Tyler's
Tessa's
smart
birthday
home
was in
systems,
March. It was
Jules
October.
had been doing what he
Have
did
fun,
best.
I said,
gathering
and intelligence
intelligence
way
and
you
making
mean break a
connections.
leg to an actor. It turned out
She
Tyler
left at
Reed
7,
had
dressed
made
in a black
enemies.
dress I'd never
His
seen
arrogant
before,
attitude and
wearing
habit of
perfume
taking
that
credit
smelled
for
like
other
promises
people's work
she wasn't
had
making
earned
to
him
me.
a reputation.
I watched from the
at
window
Kendra
as she got into her
Associates.
car.
His
then
tendency to
immediately
hit
called
on
Jules.
every attractive
Operation
woman
Catch
in
a
the
Cheater
office,
is a go,
regardless
I
of their
said.
relationship
Jesus,
status,
Nick,
had made
you
him
sure about
particularly
this?
unpopular with
I'm
the married
sure I need
employees.
to know.
Jules
An
had
hour
spent
later,
the last week
Jules and
making
I were
friends
parked
with
outside
these
Hendrick's
disgruntled
bar,
coworkers,
watching my wife laugh at
particularly
jokes
Monica
told
Henderson
by a guy
from
who
HR,
definitely
who'd been
wasn't
looking
Tessa.
for a reason
He was
to
younger
discipline
than me.
Tyler
Wife's
since he'd
phone
made
could
an
wake the dead.
inappropriate
And at
comment
2:47
about her daughter
a.m., it
during a
practically
company
raised
picnic.
me from mine.
Monica's very
Kendra
interested
didn't
in
even
seeing those
flinch.
screenshots
She
you
just
showed
rolled
me.
over,
Jules
grabbed
had
the
reported
device with
earlier
the
in
practice
week,
motion of someone
especially
who'd
the
been
ones
expecting
Tyler
it,
talks
and
about
started typing
conquering the
furiously
married
under the
women at
covers.
work.
Work emergency?
Today was the day
I
Monica
mumbled
was
into
going
my
to get her
pillow.
evidence.
So we both knew
But
her
first, I
marketing
had a
firm
more
didn't
personal
exactly
deal
deal
in
in
life
life
and
and
death
death
campaigns. I drove to Riverside Park, where
She
Jewel
whispered,
was waiting with
her
a clear
fingers
view of the
dancing
parking
across the
area.
screen like she
Tyler's
was
Audi was
composing
there,
the next
along
great
with Kendra's
American
Honda.
novel.
They
Instead
were sitting
of
on a
whatever
bench
late
by the
night
lake,
conversation
close
couldn't
enough
wait
to be
until
intimate,
morning.
far enough
I'm
from
Nick
other
Dalton,
people to think
and
they
I fix
had
computers
privacy.
for a living.
They
Not
didn't see me
glamorous,
coming
but
until I
it
was
pays
10
the
feet
bills
away.
and keeps me sharp enough
Beautiful
to notice
morning
when
for a
something's
walk,
off in the
I said
digital world.
conversationally. What I
Kendra's
was
face
slower
went
to
white.
pick up on were the
Tyler looked
glitches in my
confused,
own
then
marriage.
annoyed, like
The
I was
texting
interrupting
continued
something
for another
important.
20 minutes.
Nick,
I know
Kendra
because I
stammered.
watched the clock.
What are you doing here?
Counting each
I
passing
could
minute
ask you
like
the
a
same
man
question.
waiting for his
Funny,
execution.
you don't look like Tessa.
When Kendra finally put the phone
Tyler
down,
stood up, puffing
she
out
was
his chest
smiling
in
the
display
dark.
of dominance.
I could
that
see
might
it in
have
the
been
reflection of
intimidating
our bedroom
if I hadn't
mirror.
spent the last
That
month learning
satisfied
everything
little
there
smirk
was to
she
know
used to
about him.
reserve for me.
Who the heck are you?
Everything
he
okay at
demanded.
the office?
I'm Nick Dalton.
I asked again.
I said, extending my
Just
hand
Tessa
with a
being
smile.
dramatic about her
Kendra's
dating
husband.
life.
We
Kendra
met at the
said
gym,
smoothly.
remember?
remember?
You know how
The
she
color
gets.
drained from his face
I
as
did
the
know
pieces
Tessa.
clicked together.
Kendra's
To his
best
credit,
friend
he
since
recovered
college.
quickly,
A
but not
socialite who
quickly
treated
enough.
gossip like currency and
Look,
had never
man,
sent
this
a text
isn't what
after
it looks
10
like.
p.m. in the 8 years
Really?
I've known her.
Because it
But I
looks like
didn't
you're
say
having
that.
a romantic
Instead,
morning with my
I
wife
filed
after
it away
she lied
in
to
the
me
growing
about where she
folder
was
in my
going.
brain labeled
What does it look like
things
to
that
you?
don't add up.
Kendra found her voice.
The next
Nick,
morning,
please, let me
Kendra
explain.
was already gone when I woke
Explain
up.
what? How long
Her
you've been
coffee
lying
mug
to me?
sat in the sink.
How many times you've looked
Lipstick
me in the
stain
eye
on the
and
rim,
told me you were
a
somewhere
shade
else?
I didn't
Or
recognize.
maybe you'd like to
Cherry
explain why
red
you're
instead of
planning
her
weekend
usual soft
getaways
pink.
with your coworker
Another
while I'm
file
at
for
home
the
thinking
folder.
we're working through a rough
I was
patch.
debugging a server crash
Tyler
for a local
stepped
law
forward,
firm when my
trying to
phone
insert
buzzed.
himself
Jules
between us.
Martinez.
Hey,
My
nobody
best
planned
friend
for this
since
to
high
happen.
school and the only ex-cop
Sometimes
I knew
people just
who
connect,
quit the
you know?
force to install
I laughed,
security
and
systems
something in the
because,
sound made
in
both
his
of them
words,
take a step back.
I got tired
Connect.
of arriving after the crime.
Is that what you call it? Coffee?
Tyler, my friend.
His text read.
Let me tell you about
Always,
connection.
I replied.
Connection is
We met at
15
Murphy's
years of
Diner,
marriage.
the kind of place that
Connection is
served
holding
coffee
someone's
strong enough
hair
to
while
strip
they're
paint
sick.
and didn't judge you
Connection
for
is
ordering
working double
breakfast at
shifts
2
to pay
p.m.
for their mother's funeral.
Jules was already
Connection is
there,
not sleeping with
looking
your
like
coworker
he'd been
and
awake for
calling it
days,
destiny.
which, knowing him,
Nick
he probably
Kendra
had
started.
Been.
I'm
You
not
look
done.
like heck, he said
My
by
voice
way of
was
greeting.
calm, which seemed to scare them more
Kendra's
than
been
if I'd
acting
been
weird,
shouting.
I said,
Tyler,
sliding into the booth.
you made a
across
mistake
from
when
him.
you decided to mess with my
Secretive.
family. You thought you were dealing with some
Jules
boring
raised an
IT
eyebrow.
guy who'd roll over
Different
and
how?
let you take what was mine.
Late night texts.
But here's what you
new
didn't know about me.
clothes.
Yesterday, I
roll
found a
over for
receipt for
anyone.
Morton's Steakhouse in her purse.
I pulled out my phone
We haven't
and
been to
showed them a
Morton's since our
screenshot of one of
anniversary
their
2 years
text
ago.
conversations. Tyler's
Maybe
face
she's
went gray.
planning a surprise.
How did you?
I know
For
things,
who?
Tyler.
I
The
know
question
about
came
your
out
smart
more
home
bitter than I
system that's been
intended.
malfunctioning.
Jules studied
I
my
know
face
about your
with
work
those sharp
email
eyes that
problems.
had made him a good cop.
I know about your social media accounts.
You want me to
posting
look into
things
it?
You don't remember posting.
No, I said
And I know
quickly.
that in about
Then
30
after a
minutes,
pause,
Monica Henderson
maybe, I
from
don't
your
know.
HR department is
Nick,
going
if
to
you
receive
think
a
she's
very
cheating,
interesting
I don't
package
think
of
anything
evidence
yet.
about your
That's the
workplace
problem.
behavior. You can't do
But
that.
I was lying,
he said,
and we both knew
but
it.
his voice lacked
The
conviction.
signs were there.
I already
Had
did.
been there for weeks.
See, the thing about
The new
technology
gym membership
is that it
she'd
keeps
never used
records
in
of
front of me.
everything.
Every
The
text,
sudden interest
every
in working
email,
late,
every
the
photo.
way she'd started
And when you're
closing her
stupid enough
laptop
to use
whenever I
company
walked
equipment
into the
for
room.
personal communications.
That evening, I
Well,
decided to test
that
a
makes
theory.
things very
I came
easy
home
for
early
someone
and
like me.
suggested we order Chinese
Kendra
food
was
and watch a
crying now.
movie.
But
Something
they
we
weren't
used
the
to
tears
do
of
every
someone
Friday
who was
night
sorry.
before life got
They were the
complicated.
tears of someone who'd
I
been
can't
caught.
tonight, Kendra said.
What do you want?
Not looking up from her
Tyler
phone.
asked. I want
Girls'
you to
night with
disappear,
Tessa and
I
the
said
crew.
simply.
Again,
I want you to stay
Didn't you
away
just
from my
go out
wife.
Wednesday?
Stay away from my house.
That was
and stay away
different. This
from my
is
life.
Tessa's birthday
And if you
celebration.
don't, I'll make sure everyone
Tessa's
in the
birthday
city
was in
knows
March.
exactly
It was
what kind
October.
of man you are.
Have fun. I
And if
said,
I do,
and meant it in the way you
then
mean
maybe
break
your
a
life
leg
goes
to an
back to
actor.
normal. Maybe
She
your
left at
smart
7,
home stops
dressed
having
in a black
technical
dress I'd never
difficulties.
seen before.
Maybe your work
wearing
problems
perfume
clear up.
that smelled like
Maybe you get to
promises
keep
she
your
wasn't making
job
to
and
me.
what's left of your
I watched from the
reputation.
window as she got into her car.
Tyler
immediately
looked at
called
Kendra.
Jules.
Then back
Operation
at me.
Catch a Cheater is a go.
He was
I
young,
said.
but he wasn't stupid.
Jesus, Nick.
He could see the
You
writing
sure
on the
about this?
wall.
This
I'm
is
sure
crazy,
I need
he
to
said,
know.
but he was already backing
An
away.
hour later,
No,
Jules and I
replied.
were parked outside
Crazy
Hendrick's
would be what I
bar,
do to you if you
watching
don't
my
take
wife
very
laugh at
reasonable
jokes
offer.
told by a guy who
He left
definitely
without another
wasn't
word,
Tessa.
practically
He
running
was
back
younger
to his
than me.
car. Wife's
Kendra
phone
watched
could
him
go
go,
dead,
then
and
turned
at
to me with an
2:47
expression
a.m.,
I'd never
it
seen
practically
before.
raised me for
Part
mine.
fear, part respect.
Kendra didn't even flinch.
Part something that
She
might
just
have been
rolled over,
attraction.
grabbed the device with the
What
practice
happens now?
motion of someone
She
who'd been
asked.
expecting it.
Now
And
we go
started
home,
typing
I
furiously
said.
under the covers.
And you decide whether
Work
you want to be
emergency?
married to me
I mumbled
or
into
married
my
to the
pillow.
fantasy
Though
of
we
what your
both knew
life
her
could
marketing
be with
firm
someone
didn't
else.
exactly deal in
But
life or
Kendra,
death campaigns.
Whatever you decide, you decided honestly.
She
No
whispered.
more lies.
Her
No more
fingers
games.
dancing across the
No
screen
more
like
Tyler.
she was composing the
She
next
nodded,
great
still
American
crying, and
novel.
followed me back to
instead
my
of
car.
whatever late night
As we drove
conversation
home and
couldn't
silence,
wait until morning.
I caught her looking at me in the
I'm Nick
rearview
Dalton,
mirror, and I
the old
fix
Nick was
computers
gone,
for a
and
living.
she was seeing the
Not
new one for the
glamorous,
first
but it
time.
pays the
I had a
bills
feeling
and keeps
she
me
liked
sharp
what she
enough
saw.
to notice when
The
something's
drive
off
home was
in
the
digital
longest 20
world.
minutes of my marriage.
What I was slower
Kendra
to
sat
pick
in the
up on were
passenger
the
seat,
glitches in my
alternating
own
between
marriage.
staring out the
The
window and
texting
stealing
continued for
glances
another
at me
20
like
minutes.
she was trying to
I
figure
know
out
because I
who
watched
I'd
the
become.
clock, counting each
I knew the
passing
feeling,
minute like a man waiting for
When
his
we pulled into our
execution.
driveway, she
When
finally
Kendra
spoke.
finally put the phone
How long
down,
have you known?
she was smiling
Long
in the
enough?
dark.
I could
Are you
see
going
it in
to
the
leave me?
reflection of our bedroom mirror.
I turned off the
That
engine and looked at satisfied
her.
little smirk she
Really
used to
looked
reserve
at her
for me.
for the first time in months.
Everything okay
She
at
was
the
still
office?
beautiful.
I asked again.
Still the woman I'd fallen
Just
in
Tessa
love with
being
in
dramatic
college.
about her dating
But there
life.
was something
Kendra
different
said
in her
smoothly.
eyes now.
You know how
Something
she
that
gets?
hadn't been there
I did
before
know
Tyler
Tessa.
Reed walked into
Kendra's
her
best
life.
friend since college.
That depends,
A
I
socialite who
said.
treated gossip
On
like
what?
currency and had never sent
On
a
whether
text
the
after
woman I
10
married
PM
is
in the
still
8
in there
years I'd known her.
somewhere, or if
But I
she
didn't say
died when
that.
you decided our
Instead,
marriage was worth
I
less
filed
than
it
a few
away
months
in
of
the growing
excitement
folder in
with
my
a
brain
29-year-old.
Things
She
that
started
don't add
crying
up.
again. But these
The
tears
next
were
morning,
different. These were the
Kendra was
tears
already
of
gone
someone
when I
who was
woke up.
genuinely sorry,
Her coffee mug
not
sat
just
in the
sorry
sink.
they'd been caught.
Lipstick stain on the rim.
I don't know what
shade
happened to
I didn't
me,
recognize.
she whispered. Cherry
I don't
red
know how I
instead of her
became
usual
someone who
soft
could do
pink.
this to you.
Another file for
I
the
do.
folder, I said.
I was
You
debugging
became
a server
someone
crash
who
for a
stopped
local law
seeing
firm
me
when
as
my
a
phone
person
buzzed.
and started
Jules
seeing me as an
Martinez,
obstacle
my
to
best
what you
friend
thought
since
you
high
wanted.
school and the only ex-cop
We
I
sat
knew
in the car
who quit
for another
the force
10
to
minutes
install
while she
security
cried,
systems
and I
because,
processed
in his
the fact
words,
that my marriage
I
might
got tired
actually
of
be
arriving after
salvageable.
the crime.
The old Nick would have been relieved.
Coffee
would have been
His
ready to
text read,
forgive and forget.
forget and
Always,
pretend
I replied.
none of this had
We
ever
met at
happened.
Murphy's Diner,
But the old Nick
the
was
kind of
gone.
place that served coffee
And the new
strong
Nick had
enough to strip
standards.
paint.
If we're
I
going to
didn't
fix
judge
this,
you for ordering
I said
breakfast
finally,
at 2 p.m.
it's going to be on my terms.
Jules was already
nodded,
there,
wiping
looking
her eyes
like
with
he'd
the
been
back of her
awake for
hand.
days.
First,
Which, knowing him,
you're going to tell
he
me
probably
everything.
had been.
Every
You look like
lie,
heck, he
every
said by
meeting,
way of greeting.
every time you chose
Kendra's
him
been
over
acting
me.
weird.
I want to know
said,
all of it.
sliding into the booth
Nick,
across from him.
Everything, Kendra. Or this
Secretive,
conversation ends
different.
right here.
Jules
She took a
raised an
shaky
eyebrow
breath and started
Different
talking.
how?
It took 2 hours
Late
and
night
3 cups of
texts,
coffee,
new
but
clothes.
she told me everything.
Yesterday I found
how
a
it
receipt
started
from
with
Morton's
innocent
Steakhouse
flirting
in
at
her
a company
purse.
happy hour.
We haven't been to
How
Morton's
Tyler
since
had
our
made her feel
anniversary 2
young
years
and
ago.
desirable in a way she hadn't felt in
Maybe
years.
she's planning
How
a
the
surprise.
thrill of sneaking around had
For
taken
who?
over her life. The question
she
came
kept
out more bitter
going
than I
back.
intended, even
Jules
when she
studied
knew it
my
was
face
wrong.
with those sharp
How
eyes
she'd
that had made
convinced
him a good
herself
cop.
that what I didn't know
You want me to
wouldn't
look
hurt
into
me.
it? The worst
No,
part,
I
she
said
said when she
quickly,
was finished.
Then
Is
after
that
a
I knew it
pause,
was wrong the whole time.
Maybe, I don't
Every
know.
lie I told you.
Nick,
Every
if you
time I
think
came
she's
home
cheating,
and pretended
I don't
everything
think
was
anything
normal,
yet. That's
I
the
knew I
problem.
was destroying something good for something that was
But I was
never going
lying,
to last.
and we both knew it.
Then why
The
didn't you
signs were there.
stop?
Had been there for weeks.
Because stopping would have
the new
meant
gym membership
admitting
she'd
what
never
I'd
used
become.
in front of me, and I wasn't ready to
The sudden
face
interest
that.
in working late.
The
I
way she'd
understood
started
that better
closing
than I
her
wanted to
laptop
admit.
whenever I walked
I'd
into
spent
the
the
room.
last month becoming someone
That
I
evening,
didn't
I decided to
recognize
test a
either.
theory. The
I
difference
came
was,
home early and suggested
I
we
liked who
order
I'd
Chinese
become.
food and watch a movie.
What happens
Something
to
we
Tyler?
used to do every
She
Friday
asked.
night before life
Tyler's
got complicated.
not your problem
I
anymore.
can't tonight.
He's
Kendra
mine.
said, not looking
My
up
phone
from her
buzzed.
phone.
A text from
Girls' night
Jules.
with Tessa and the
Package
crew.
delivered.
Again?
Monica
Didn't
says
you
to
just
tell
go
you
out
that
Wednesday?
Kendra Associates takes
That was
workplace
different. This
harassment
is
very
Tessa's birthday
seriously.
celebration.
I showed Kendra the message.
Tessa's birthday was
She
in
closed
March.
her
It was
eyes.
October.
He's going to lose
Have
his
fun,
job.
I said.
He's going to
and
lose
meant it
more
in the
than
way
that
you
if
mean
he doesn't
break a
learn to
leg
keep his
to an
hands to
actor.
himself.
She left at 7,
planned all
dressed
of
in a
this.
black dress I'd never
I
seen
planned to
before,
protect what was
wearing
mine.
perfume that smelled
Tyler
like
Reed made the
promises she
mistake
wasn't
of thinking
making
I
me.
was weak.
I watched
A lot
from
of
the
people make
window
that
as she got
mistake.
into her car.
She
and
looked at
immediately
me
called
with something
Jules.
that might have been
Operation Catch a
admiration.
Cheater is a go.
When
I
did you
said.
become so
Jesus, Nick.
ruthless? You sure about this?
When my wife
I'm
started
sure
sleeping
I
with her
need to know.
coworker and lying
An
to
hour
my
later,
face about it,
Jules and I were parked outside
the words
Hendrick's
hit her
bar,
like a physical
watching my
blow.
wife laugh
But
at
I wasn't
jokes
done.
told by a guy who
You
definitely
want to know
wasn't
what
Tessa.
the real
He
tragedy
was younger
is,
than
Kendra?
me.
Wife's
It's
phone
not that
could
you
wake
had
the
an
dead,
affair.
and at
People make
2:47 a.m.,
mistakes.
it practically
People
raised
get
me from
tempted.
mine.
People
Kendra
do
didn't
stupid
even
things.
flinch. She just rolled
The
over,
tragedy is
grabbed
that you
the
looked at
device with
me,
the practice
at
motion
us,
of someone who'd
and
been
decided we
expecting
weren't
it,
worth
and
fighting
started
for.
typing furiously
You
under the
decided I
covers.
wasn't worth the
Work
truth.
emergency?
That's
I
not
mumbled
true.
into my pillow.
It is true.
So we both knew her
For 2
marketing
months,
firm
you
didn't
woke up
exactly
next to
deal
me
in
every
life or
morning
death
and chose to
campaigns.
lie.
You kissed me goodnight and chose
She
to lie.
whispered.
Her
You made
fingers
love to me and
dancing
chose to
across
lie.
the screen like
Do you
she
have
was
any idea
composing
what
the
that
next
does to a
great
person?
American novel
She was
instead
crying
of whatever
again,
late-night
but I was past the
conversation
point
couldn't
where her
wait
tears
until
could move
morning.
me.
I'm Nick
sorry,
Dalton, and
she
I
whispered.
fix computers
I'm
for
so
a living.
sorry, Nick. I
Not
know I don't
glamorous,
deserve
but
it,
it pays the
please,
bills and
please
keeps
give
me
me a
sharp
chance to
enough
make
to
this
notice
right.
when something's off in the
I studied
digital
her
world.
face.
Looking for
What
any
I was
sign
slower
that
to
this was
pick up
just
on
another
were the
manipulation
glitches in my own
another
marriage.
lie designed to
The
get her
texting
when she
continued
wanted.
for another
But
20
all I
minutes.
saw was
I know
genuine
because
remorse,
I watched
and
the
the kind
clock,
of fear that comes from
counting
realizing
each
you've
passing
lost
minute
something
like a man waiting for
irreplaceable.
his execution.
One chance. I
When
said
Kendra finally put the
but
phone
it's going to
down,
cost
she
you
was smiling in the
anything.
dark.
I could
You're
see
going
it
to
in the
quit your
reflection
job.
of our bedroom mirror.
What?
That
You're going to
satisfied
quit
little
Kendra
smirk she used
Associates
to
and you're
reserve
going
for
to
me.
find work somewhere else.
Everything okay
Somewhere
at
that
the
doesn't
office?
have Tyler
I
Reed
asked
or anyone
again.
like him.
Somewhere
Tessa
you
being
can remember
dramatic
who
about
you
her
used to
dating
be
life,
before you
Kendra
decided
said
our
smoothly.
marriage was disposable.
You know how she gets?
Nick,
I
that's
did
my
know
career.
Tessa.
Your
Kendra's
career
best
is what
friend
gave you
since
the
college.
opportunity to
A
betray
socialite
me.
who treated
Your
gossip
career
like
is where you
currency
met
and
him,
never sent a
where you
text
planned
after
your
10
lies,
p.m. in
where
the
you
8 years
decided
I'd known
I
her.
was worth less
But
than
I
a
didn't
few
say
months
that.
of excitement.
Instead,
So
I
your
filed it
career
away
is what
in
you're
the
going to
growing
sacrifice
folder
to
in my
save
brain
our marriage.
labeled things that don't
She was
add up.
quiet for a long time,
The
processing
next
what I was
morning,
asking of her.
Kendra was already
Finally,
gone
she
when I
nodded.
woke up.
Okay,
Her coffee
I'll
mug
quit.
sat in the sink,
And you're going to
lipstick
therapy.
stain on the rim,
Individual
a
therapy,
shade I
couples
didn't
therapy,
recognize.
whatever it
Cherry
takes to
red
figure
instead
out
of her usual
how you
soft
became
pink.
someone
Another
who could
file
do this
for
to
the
us.
folder.
Okay, I was debugging
And
a server
Kendra,
crash for
if
a
you
local
ever,
law firm
and I
when my
mean
phone
ever
buzzed.
lie to me
Jules
again about
Martinez,
anything, even
my
something
best
small,
friend since high school,
even
and
something
the
you
only
think
ex-cop
doesn't
I knew
matter,
who'd quit
this
the force
marriage
to
is
install
over.
security systems
No discussion,
because,
no
in his
second
words,
chances.
I
No
got tired of
working it
arriving
out.
after the
Over.
crime. She nodded,
Coffee,
understanding the weight
his
of what I
text
was
read.
saying.
Can you
Always,
forgive me?
I replied.
She asked.
We met at
I
Murphy's
don't know,
Diner.
I said
The kind of
honestly.
place that served
But
coffee
I'm willing to
strong
try.
enough to strip
The
paint
question is,
and didn't
are
judge
you
you for
willing to earn
ordering
it?
breakfast at 2
3
p.m.
days later, Tyler Reed
Jules
was
was
fired
already
from
there,
Kendra Associates
looking like
for
he'd been awake
inappropriate
for
conduct,
days, which
and
knowing
fostering
him,
a toxic
he probably
workplace.
had been.
2
You
days
look
after
like
that,
heck,
Kendra
he said
submitted
by
her
way of greeting.
resignation.
A week later, we
Kendra's been
started
acting
couples
weird,
therapy.
I said,
Sliding
It wasn't
into
a
the booth
happy
across
ending.
from him. Not yet.
secretive,
Maybe not ever.
different, but it was a beginning.
Jules raised an eyebrow.
And sometimes, when
Different
everything
how?
you thought you knew about your
Late
life
night
turns out to be a
texts,
lie,
new clothes.
a beginning
Yesterday
is enough.
I found a receipt
The
from
old
Morton's
Nick would have been
Steakhouse in her
grateful
purse.
just to have his
We haven't
wife
been to
back.
Morton's since
Would have
our
been willing to
anniversary 2
pretend none
years
of it
ago.
had ever happened.
But the new
Maybe
Nick
she's
had learned
planning a
something
surprise?
important. Sometimes the
For
only
who?
way to save something
The
worth
question
keeping
came out more
is to be
bitter
willing
than
to
I
destroy
intended.
everything
Jules
that isn't.
studied my face,
And as
I
with those
watched
sharp
Tyler
eyes
Reed
that had
clean
made
out
him
his
a good
desk
cop.
through the window of Kendra Associates,
You want me to
I
look into
realized
it?
that the man who
No,
tried to steal
I
my
said
life had
quickly.
actually given me
Then
something
after a
invaluable.
pause,
He'd given me
Maybe,
back my
I don't know.
strength.
Nick, if you think she's cheating, I don't think anything yet. That's the problem.
But I was lying, and we both knew it. The signs were there, had been there for weeks. The new gym membership she'd never